Why does Michigan pay higher car insurance rates than anywhere else in the nation? Many point the finger at the state's no-fault insurance laws.
Now there's an effort to reform those laws and save drivers money, but at what cost to the people who are seriously injured in auto accidents? State Rep Pete Lund is leading that effort with a new bill in Lansing, and Oakland County Executive LBrooks Patterson is bucking some of his fellow Republicans and even the governor opposing the no-fault reform. Now, Brooks, let's start with you.
Obviously, that way I'll get a word in edgewise. Thank you.
Well, I mean, but you were obviously in an accident not too long ago.
Good. Let me clarify that, Karen. I'm being covered under workers' comp since I was on duty. This fund is for uninsured motorists and catastrophic injuries. So I don't have a dime at risk in this fight. Okay.
No, but it does matter to you.
But I understand
more
it.
because now you can relate to this issue and what these serious injuries can do, and of course how these bills
and I also
can add
understand
up.
the cost of care.
Right.
My driver, a good friend of mine, he went through $2 million in about 4 months. So we're going to cap it at $1 million. You're going to put that guy, a delightful guy, into a nursing home on Medicaid, and he's going to curl up and die. That's what's at stake here.
So, go ahead.
Well, but Pete Lund, isn't the real problem here with this it's the doctors? And I know that your bill wants to cap what doctors can charge. Why not end it there?
Well, it's not just doctors; it's various
hospitals and providers,
hospitals.
that type of thing.
I mean, people who if they go in for an MRI and it's auto-related, they sometimes have to pay 4 or 5 times the price. That just is outrageous, and that's one of the things we need to focus on, is trying to cap the cost, control the cost before we even get to the cap.
Like what they do in workers' comp. Under Brooke, exactly what's happening there.
And there are some caps, there are some schedules being utilized by hospitals under the co-finity agreement, things of that type, which do in fact have schedules. Of course, if you're under Medicaid, Medicare, you've got government regulation that says you can't discriminate. You can't charge more for this person and less for that one. That's against the federal law.
Yeah, but also, Brooks, the idea that for your injuries, the people are willing to accept the rates that are put forward by the state with the workers' comp, why can't they be willing to take a much lower price, something more reasonable, something in line with what they accept for Blue Cross or another insurance, health insurer?
But workers' comp is not capped, though, either.
No, it isn't. No.
But you want to cap it, though.
Well, I realize that
we're talking my driver went through his $1 million.
But of course, that $1 million would go further if we did have the caps in place, and I understand that. But also, he would still have auto or health insurance. Health insurance, like every other state, realize when we're talking about putting $1 million cap in place, the nearest state cap-wise is $50,000 in New York. What we're talking about is putting something 20 times higher than any other state. We are going from the #1, the highest benefits in the country, all the way down to #1 highest healthcare benefits in the country.
Well, is it true with our auto insurance rates, though, that it's actually hurting the economy, that people feel like they can't afford to drive because of it?
We've got 1 out of every 5 drivers in the state of Michigan is driving around uninsured. And if you think that's a big number, think about that number someday when you're on the road. Look around and say 1 out of 5 of these people is not paying auto insurance.
But here's the question, though. Is there going to be a shift? Yes, we might be paying lower for auto insurance, but in the end, is this going to be more for taxpayers? Are they going to have to foot the bill because of Medicaid?
We estimate in research I've seen $800 million over the first 10 years increase payments under Medicaid. That's taxpayer subsidy. So the hospitals and it's like that. The insurance companies would love to shift the burden to the taxpayers.
Well, but understand, but here's an important part on that, though, is understand that the Medicaid fund is actually running a deficit. We had a tax that was put in place that brought in less than was expected. This has actually got a $25 fee before we talk about the $125 rollback. That will bring, with the match from the federal government, $500 million a year back to the state for Medicaid. So you talk about it might cost Medicaid some money. We're actually putting $500 million a year into Medicaid because of this proposal.
All right, but we asked people in a poll here that we asked auto rates, are they too high? And I don't know if we can get that poll up there right now, but we asked people, are auto rates too high? Look at that, 70% of the people said yes. Now, when we asked, the other question is, do you support the reforming auto insurance rates, no fault, similar to Pete Lund's bill? And look at the numbers, they will switch drastically. They said, if we can get that other graphic up there, they basically said no, they didn't want to do that. So Brooks,
the voters said no in 1992 to change and go back to the tort system. 63% voted no on that. 2 years later, legislature comes back for that. Okay, how about putting a cap? 61% turned it down. So this time, these guys aren't going to give the voters an input. They're just going to legislatively change the game, and the voters for whom they work and I work don't have any kind of input.
That was also 20 years ago, and since then the costs have continued to go up because there's no way to control the cost.
I got to correct Charlie in opening line, but we pay the highest insurance rates in the nation. No, we don't. We're 16 and we are 5% above the national average. 5%, $22 higher in Michigan than the national average. So there's a lot of myths being perpetrated that we're the highest and the most costly. No, we're not.
I've never heard that number before. I'd love to see it.
I got it right here.
Oh, he's got his binder.
I'd love to see it.
Right, but here's the question: where does Obamacare come into play with this? I mean,
Well, understand that
It's under the heading "Do the Math." Okay, from the
Who did the math?
Let's see who put this out. Oh, the source: 2010 National Association of Insurance Commissioners. Here's Michigan at 493. Here's the nation at 471. $22.47 higher. And what do they get for that?
I can't see it.
oh, okay.
You need some health care.
So what do they get
Some
for that?
glasses.
They
Other
get
glasses.
complete lifetime benefits for catastrophic injuries, and you know without it, you're gonna bankrupt the family, and you're gonna warehouse the sick individual.
Well, I mean, and you're speaking also from the knowledge of your driver in your accident. He's a quadriplegic.
Yeah.
If this bill was in effect, what would happen to him?
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Now, he's not being covered by this fund, so I've got to differentiate. Right. He's under workers' comp. But if he were under this fund, he'll be grandfathered in under the cap, but not under all the other things that will be changed, like attendant care and the kind of expenses you can today write off at home conversion and so forth.
Right, because it would be limiting attending care.
Well, absolutely.
So who would take care of these people?
But again, okay, first of all, understand, 49 other states does this. We would be 20 times higher than the nearest other state. Other states handle this all the time. If you have health insurance, the health insurance will cover your benefits. You can coordinate it so they're $1 actually, and the money can go to other things.
But those health care coverage won't cover things like attendant care, for example.
Well, right. It's not going to cover everything, but it's going to
Okay.
cover a lot. And if you use that for health insurance early on, if you use that to cover the health insurance dollars, those other things, that $1 million go far further.
Yeah, it's not the health care in total to blame here. PIP, the personal injury protection, is what we're talking about. Okay, and that's where we are. 16. Collision is about 3 times PIP, and that gets you over $1,000. So, how many of these? How many of these guys?
Pete,
are
let me ask you this
directed
though: we're going to pay another, starting in July, $186 per car
Yes.
for the catastrophic claims fund. That would take care of everybody for lifetime benefits. Isn't $186 a car worth unlimited medical?
But realize it's not $186 only. You're forgetting that's only the Michigan Catastrophic Claims Association after you go $530,000. You're talking about, you've got the entire other part of PIP that is more than that. That's part of the insurance, your regular insurance, before you even get there. That's why you have to look at not just the cap, you have to look at controlling cost. Yeah. And if we can do that, we can roll back the rates $125 a vehicle, saving the people of Michigan somewhere in the $900 to $1 billion range.
The numbers he throws out, I'd love to see him. So we've asked his client or the people he represents, the catastrophic claims.
I represent the people of 36
baloney. You're working on behalf of the claims association.
No. This is the governor's proposal.
All right, I'm disagree with the governor too. And we can't get the books. They're secret. We can't. They say we're not subject to FOIA.
Why wouldn't the catastrophic claims have $15 billion in the fund?
14. Well, now it's over 15 billion. They don't tell us a thing about how they set the rates. What process for actuarial determination? You know what?
That information is
Hold on. We
online.
did our own research, obviously, for this debate. I got him and asked him some questions. I hope you got it. Ask him why they bank in the Caymans.
Hold on. All right, on that thought, I'd love to go to the Caymans right now. We got to do this again, though. Pete Lund, LBrooks Patterson, this debate on auto insurance is not done. We'll have to continue it at another time.
There's information on MichiganCatastrophic.com.
We're done already? I know, we're done.
I thought we had a half hour. I got good stuff in here, Charlie.
You got good stuff. We'll do it again.